As ever, the scenery got more stunning as the sun got paler. And as it got paler, the natural colours glowed even more vividly and beautifully.
Today, we have got another very complicated route. We had road signs and what have you yesterday, and we will have those again today. But what I'm going to say is anybody who wants to go on their own, because I know there's lots of you who do want, and I've been having people coming up to me all day saying, come on, let us go on our own, we're experienced travellers, blah, 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 blah. So I will do that, but please, please take note of the details I'm going to give you now, because it is, as I say, quite complicated. The main problem we have today is the town of Coimbatore. In fact, the city has got a population bigger than Manchester, and you do not want to go there under any circumstances. You will get lost.
Us? Get lost? Seems like everybody was. And frankly, no worse than the team leaders.
Where do you think I should put my sign?
As ever, the kids came out to greet us and show us the way forward.
To give them, and I just haven't got enough.
A few miles further, and the party had once again zigzagged, this time quite literally, over the Kerala-Tamil border. This is India at its absolute most chaotic. And if the average Indian is going to die of anything, it's not AIDS or poverty, but diesel fumes. The other side of the border, and one or two felt the need for speed after the outrageous congestion of the state frontier. After that, it was a regroup before the most exciting and challenging road of the trip, not least because it was actually nearly all tarmac. In fact, the ride provided living proof that even Enfields can be fun. Not to mention, fast enough to be dangerous.
Oh, I think I was probably going like a lunatic with about 4 days riding experience other than the last 2 days, and decided to try and rearrange a truck and lost very badly. And then another bike came over the top, I think.
I came around the corner, he'd gone off wide into the bend. He just came straight out, hit the truck in the side. His bike bounced back the other way, and I just couldn't avoid his bike, so I went straight into it, dead straight on, and went flying over the top, landed on my head.
When he first came off, he was a bit shocked, so we just brought him over here, put his feet in the air, then just did a body check, and then took his trousers off.
Another hour's ride saw some spectacular hairpins, amazing views, a Neolithic forest where tigers once chilled their bones years ago. Here, the roads again were a little unpredictable. 1 minute tarmac, the next a rather dodgy, shiny imitation of it. So it wasn't surprising really when after yet another hour's ride we rounded another corner to find yet another Enfield planted on the front of yet another truck. The thing is, you tend to forget that unlike Italians, Indians never back off. As the sun began to drop, the final descent from Uti was prefixed with some stern warnings about the gradient the lack of protection and the likelihood of brake failure. Mind you, most of us had had brake failure the whole trip, so this wasn't really going to be anything much different. And to be honest, most riders seem to be having more fun here than any other part of the ride.
My bike wasn't going very well, it was oiled up and it sort of farting and banging, but we cleaned the plug and now it's going again.
And did the brakes hold up?
Oh yeah, because I kept it in the low gear. No problem with brakes, sir. But the engine didn't work. We didn't need it coming down here. That's why we stopped here, because I got to here and stopped.
He's making sparks and tracks for us, so that when we want to dig into the road, we just put our wheels in this hole and then away we go. Nice one.
Not everyone was hoolieing though. But to be fair to these girls, it was brave of them, even to attempt this descent, most of them having ridden only a few weeks in their whole lives. What they should have warned us about on day 4 was not the road, but the fact that the Christian retreat they booked us into didn't have enough beds and forbade the consumption of alcohol. And I can tell you that 1 or 2 of them looked like they needed a stiff drink.
We started out this morning. I wasn't even sure that I wanted to be parked today after listening to last night's stories about the 36 hairpin bends.
Well, I didn't like going on the motorways. That was a bit of a nightmare.
Hit a bus with my head and probably fell over about 10 times. But it was great, it was worth it. I'm just not riding now.
It was banging and popping, and we even had the local police come down and give us a hand.
Turning left onto the busiest main road in India and collapsed in front of a lorry practically, so that was a bit uncomfortable.
Did you learn to ride a bike specifically for this trip?
I did, but then I failed my test, so I'm riding pillion.
Never sat on a bike before.
Day 5 dawned, as ever, to another glorious sunrise. And it hardly seemed possible that this was to be the last riding day of the tour.
Right, well.
It was actually something of an emotional departure. Everybody riding together. Almost spontaneously. ride out of the retreat provided some snatches of beautiful wildlife. And as ever, you're as likely to meet the wildlife on the road as off it.
Jesus.
From the minuscule to the absolute mammoth, nothing you meet on the road in India would surprise you. Out from the reservation, and the vegetation just got lusher and lusher. From towering palms to a whole roof of bamboo. A bit further on, and once again we cross the border. Still in jungle terrain, full of startling colours and scents. Though incongruous towns seem to spring out of nowhere every 5 or 6 kilometres. Another wake-up call, this time in the shape of a cow. A subject so sacred it almost carries a stiffer penalty than hitting a human. Finally, it was time for the final descent down from the edge of the Gap Mountains to the coastal plain. Another glorious series of switchbacks, startling precipices, and incredible views, where the more experienced riders could really let it all hang out. And you gotta hand it to these little Enfields. Even at barely 20 horsepower, they really can be fun. By now, one or two were getting quietly confident with their bikes. And maybe one or two were getting just a little too overconfident.
This is what happens when Indians start trying to drive across the road in front of you. I was coming down this road fairly fast. Car started to turn right across front of my path, and he just stopped. I was going to go around the back of him, but he stopped. Couldn't go around the back of him. Tried to go around the front of him, and there was nowhere to go, so I just put the bike down and slid. My finger's been bent back. I think it's broken. Just strapped it up. Got a couple of grazes, but I think I was lucky, basically.
But amazingly, everybody made it. 1,000 kilometres in 5 days, to the very town where the palliative care clinic is situated, and the whole point of the trip. It was rightly time for a little self-congratulation.
Actually, this clinic is first of its kind in India. Usually in India, people who are suffering from cancer, they get all sorts of radiotherapy, chemotherapy, all these things, and they finally die, and they die out of misery. So what we do out here is palliation. We give palliation to the patients. People who've come here, they have had feelings of they want to die. They have so much pain that they always say that they want to die. But once they come here and they get the palliation, they get their pain alleviated. People have said, no, I want to live.